This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Are you driving your car or doing laundry right now? Podcasts go best when they're bundled with another activity, like Progressive home and auto policies. They're best when bundled too. Having these two policies together makes insurance easier and could help you save. Customers who save by switching their home and car insurance to Progressive save nearly $800 on average. Quote a home and car bundle today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $793 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary.
Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously and 6'1" since that matters. And what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
Welcome to Dear Prudence. I'm your Prudence, Jenée Desmond-Harris. Today we'll be giving advice on what to do when a group chat explodes over allegations about offensive humor, when to cut a narcissistic stepsister from the wedding guest list, and how to relate to a little brother who is seemingly on the road to becoming Alex Jones. Here to help me out is Heaven Nagatu. She's worked for Showtime's Desus and Mero as a writer and supervising producer, at The Late Show with Stephen Colbert as a social media producer, and as a writer for HBO's Game Theory with Bomani Jones. You may also know her as the co-host of the beloved BuzzFeed podcast, Another Round. Welcome, Heaven.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really, really excited to have you, and I'm going to start off by asking you for one piece of unsolicited advice.
Okay, so I would definitely say work less, just in general. Mm-hmm. Don't work so hard. I feel like people at the end of their life are always like, I wish I spent more time with my loved ones and not like on the grind 24/7.
And do you know what I always think about? I always think about at the times when I was working the most and the most stressed out, the people who were stressing me out. In 5 years, I've usually forgotten who they are.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, it's just like these people are not going to be relevant to you.
Absolutely.
In the very near future. Now, of course, you want to work hard enough to keep your job if you need money. And most people do.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of room between that and giving up everything else and just letting it totally consume you.
Yeah. Don't make work your identity. Like, as hard as you can, enforce like work-life balance.
So important. And also, I think it makes you actually better at work if you're coming in as a kind of normal, sane, balanced person. At some point, if you're super stressed and emotional about it, it's like you're not going to be getting better. You're just going to be being weird.
It affects the work. Yeah. You're just being weird.
You're just being weird. Don't be weird. Second piece of unsolicited advice. Okay, with that, Heaven and I will dive into your questions after a short break. Can't get enough Dear Prudence? Then you should definitely join Slate Plus, Slate's membership program. You'll get to hear me answer an extra question every week just for members. With your subscription, you get ad-free listening across the Slate network and unlimited reading on the Slate site, including all Dear Prudence columns, past and present. Go to slate.com/Prudie Plus to sign up. It's just $15 for your first 3 months. Again, that's slate.com/Prudie Plus. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you're driving, cooking, or doing laundry, Progressive knows the podcasts you listen to go best when they're bundled with another activity. Much like how their Progressive home and auto policies go best when they're bundled. Having these two policies together makes taking care of your insurance easier and could help you save too. Customers who save by switching their home and car insurance to Progressive save nearly $800 on average. That's a whole lot of savings and protection for your favorite podcast listening activities, like going on a road trip, cooking dinner, and even hitting the home gym. Yep, your home and car are even easier to protect when you bundle your insurance together. Find your perfect combo. Get a home and car insurance quote at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $793 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary. Welcome back. You're listening to Dear Prudence, and I'm here with Heaven Nagatu. Let's get started with our first letter. It's titled, No Invite.
So 3 years ago, my stepsister announced her pregnancy at my sister's wedding. She was always an attention whore growing up, but she has got pathological about it as an adult. I think she wanted to make a huge scene to punish my sister for daring to get married first and was dissatisfied that everyone just tried to ignore her. She, later, made a huge social media post about losing her pregnancy, right after my sister put up her honeymoon photos. I'm engaged. Making it worse is that my fiancé is a guy my stepsister more or less stalked in high school. She really hated the fact we started to date 2 years ago. We live in a different city, so I get to avoid her as much as possible, but can't do it forever since she recently moved back in with her parents. I don't want her within a mile of me right now. Not the wedding planning, not the wedding itself. Everyone has flat out agreed that she will pull some stunt or another, other than my parents. My stepfather has always overcompensated for his daughter because he feels guilty over the death of his first wife. She died when my stepsister was 5, and he married my mom when she was 10. Whatever damage my stepsister has is on her to fix. Not me. My fiancé really doesn't want her there either. What are my options beyond the nuclear one?
Okay, I saw your face at the line about posting the pregnancy loss pictures that I guess overshadowed the honeymoon. I have thoughts too, but let's put a pin in that. The basic question of whether announcing a pregnancy at a wedding is terrible, I'm not convinced that it is. I do wish I could ask a clarifying question, which is, was the announcement made on the mic during her toast? Or did she just tell someone at her table when maybe they asked why she wasn't drinking? I think that makes a difference. But either way, I don't think it's unforgivable, pathological, or awful. It's not best practice, but I don't think it's something that ruins the wedding for the bride or takes attention away from the couple. Like, you had the whole day.
I do get the sense that it wasn't like quietly told to people. I think it was like everyone knew now because she made a thing of it. I kind of generally dislike the phrase like attention whore or whatever. Like every human needs attention. I feel like that comes from a place of like feeling unseen or just, needing love. With that said, people do kind of take it too far with the attention.
So as far as the announcement, not great. I think pathological is a bridge too far.
Yeah. On the spectrum of like on wedding etiquette, like I remember I saw this TikTok where a woman came to her friend's wedding in a full-on wedding gown, not just a white dress, but a wedding gown. That's the extreme end of the spectrum, I would say.
Right. Now to what I saw you like wincing and rolling your eyes over. Posting the pregnancy loss pictures that allegedly undermined honeymoon pictures. What? First of all, who cares about honeymoon pictures?
Right.
The wedding is over. You had your wedding pictures. Your 15 minutes of fame are done. How in the world could this letter writer think that honeymoon pictures are deserving of more attention than a post, which is really brave and vulnerable, about pregnancy loss?
Yeah.
To me, that says you're not really worried about behavior. You just hate your stepsister. And
Yes.
you're looking for anything at this point.
Yes. You're also not going to get less likes because someone else is also getting likes or whatever, getting engagement or whatever she's missing out on because of this like coincidence or not coincidence.
Right. And you have different friends. You have friends and family who don't know her. Yeah. It's okay. So the real question is, given that your stepsister is really not a totally out of control person who's likely to ruin your wedding, but you really don't like her, is it a good idea to exclude her from the wedding?
No, that's too much. No. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If the letter writer cuts her from the list, she's going to have to deal with so many negative vibes, so many guilt trips from relatives. She's going to have to make so many explanations. She'll have to face her at family events.
Right. What happens next?
Right. It feels like such a burden, and a much bigger burden than just knowing she's somewhere in the crowd while you're getting married. And keep in mind, you don't even really see everyone. I forget who was at my wedding all the time because you talk to people for 3 seconds. It's not as if you have to sit and connect with her all night.
Yeah.
Okay. One final issue. Making it worse is that my fiance is a guy my stepsister more or less stalked in high school. She really hated the fact that we started to date 2 years ago. Letter writer, we need more detail. I want to say this to all letter writers. We need showing, not telling. What has she done to show this hate? Has she thrown fits? Has she tried to steal him back from you? I just need to know how this so-called hate that you're together has actually showed up to know what to make of this. And because we're not getting any details, I think it's like largely manufactured. Okay. Our next question is titled Exhausted by Drama.
How do you convince someone that the way that they address people is toxic? I have a friend called Luke. Luke is a seriously disabled queer man in his early 50s. He lost his lower leg after a bone infection so severe it almost killed him. We've been friends for a long time, and I was there for him when it happened. He turned into a vocal advocate for disabled rights and for housing issues. His ability to yell and sometimes berate people works well for him in this line of work, though most of his time is volunteered. He rarely gets paid. We've also been in a number of group chats together of old friends. Some of these friends of ours predate my friendship with Luke, and many of them go back 15 plus years. Luke was invited midway through last year to one of these chats. It's fairly small, only about 10 of us, and it's been a safe space for us to talk through different issues in a fairly non-judgmental way and just offer support. Jeff has been having knee problems for years. He was a fairly active individual in his youth, and now, also in his 50s, his body is showing it. He lives in a state that didn't expand Medicaid, and he and his family struggle a lot with affording insurance. They fell into a donut hole that the expansion was supposed to fix. They make a hair too much for Medicaid and too little to qualify for credits on the marketplace. Both Jeff and his wife are self-employed, so they're unable to get employer-based health insurance. As such, they have the cheapest plan they could afford, and it's still a stretch. Jeff was in the chat one day talking about the extra hoops he has to jump through for a knee replacement, even though he has done most of those steps before. He was also complaining about how much it was going to cost. He said something along the lines of, "I should just whack them off," which led to another friend in the chat to say something about robotic legs. It was meant to lighten the mood. Luke went apoplectic about it, immediately jumping in to say that this isn't a laughing matter and how traumatic losing his leg was. Everyone kind of backed off, respecting that it was traumatic for Luke. If the story ended there, I wouldn't be writing in. However, Luke doubled down. He went on a rant about how it's always traumatic and how none of us could ever understand. He also made it sound like he was speaking for all amputees. Jeff fought back, saying that Luke couldn't speak for everyone and that this wasn't the place for the rant. Moreover, no harm was meant, and everyone would be more careful with their language. The next day, Luke left the chat and DM'd me privately to tell me how no one ever listens, how he keeps losing friends, and that he's owed an apology. He went on to tell me that he is just trying to educate everyone. I tried to smooth things over, but Luke is prickle, and once his pride is wounded, that's it. I've seen this before. He is now regularly DMing me, though I've kept my responses very surface level. I previously had restricted my communication with him because I couldn't deal with these situations. I'm just at a loss now on how to tell him that he was in the wrong this time. Every time I try to present that maybe this was an attempt at harm, he jumps down my throat to tell me it absolutely was, and how unsafe he felt in the chat at the end. I've read the conversation a few times, and every time he comes off as the wrong one. But he always believes he is the wronged party. How do I even start to address this? I have little doubt this attitude has cost him jobs. Though he says, "Oh, I just didn't know the right people." And I know it has continued to cost him friends.
So the way this conversation unfolded, with the insensitive comment and the allegations that followed, and then kind of the tone policing of, it wasn't meant like that. You need to calm down. It reminded me of a fight that might happen on Twitter. And the issue there is that people don't know each other and aren't really friends and often assume the worst of each other.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, what's going on with this group chat? Luke was invited midway through last year. It's allegedly a safe space for us to talk through different issues in a fairly non-judgmental way and offer support. It sounds like Luke doesn't know these people as well. Why was he invited late? The whole context in which this conversation happened, I think, might be part of the problem.
Yeah. If I was in a 10-person group chat that I was just added to with people I don't know as long as they've known each other, I really wouldn't participate that much.
Yeah, me neither. With that said, am I the only one who's on Luke's side here? Luke is the person who was offended by the comments about chopping the legs off and the robotic leg. I can totally understand why he was upset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How much does it cost to be a little bit sensitive on the one group chat you have with a man who has lost a leg? How much does it take to understand that joking about a robotic leg and chopping a leg off in that group chat is really mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think they should have just let him be upset about it. It sounds to me like they were willing to sort of briefly apologize. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it. These people made the mean comment and suddenly they're the victims because Luke got too upset. Let him be upset.
Yeah.
That's your friend.
Absolutely. And you have to hear out where the anger is coming from. A lifetime in this world of not seeing disabled people as humans or not treating them as they should be. Like, that's a righteous anger. Yeah. And it does sound like the letter writer has other reasons to think Luke's personality is abrasive. And I believe that. The letter writer says, I've previously restricted my communication with him due to this kind of behavior. So they think his attitude has cost him jobs. Apparently his whole thing is personally and professionally berating people. Maybe this was the straw that broke the camel's back. But I think, letter writer, if your issue with Luke is that he's mean and abrasive all the time, you need to bring that up separately, not at a moment when he's been knocked down and when he's in pain. When he lashes out and randomly attacks someone, you can say, hey, I hate it when you talk to people like that. I feel like that was really mean. As a matter of fact, you do it a lot. And then bring this up as an example. Right, as one of many examples. Yeah. Letter writer, I think you should give him some grace for this particular situation. And if you need to, talk to him about his tendency to be an asshole more generally, not on the group chat. You're listening to the Dear Prudence Show, and when we come back, we'll be reading more of your letters. Stay with us. The best way to learn a language? Immersion. Living where the language is spoken and using it every day. But if that's not in the cards this year, you can still learn a language the second best way, and that's with Babbel. I love how easy it is to use, and as a person who can be really self-conscious about making mistakes, I love that I don't have to actually talk to a real human while I'm still working on my vocabulary and my accent. Be a better you in 2024 with Babbel, the science-based language-driven learning app that actually works. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't really help you speak the language. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Babbel's designed by real people for real conversations. Babbel's tips and tools are approachable, accessible, and rooted in real-life situations. They're delivered with conversation-based teaching, so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold. Plus, all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for our listeners. Right now, get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/Prudie. Get 55% off at babbel.com/Prudie, spelled BABBEL.com/Prudie. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Families have a lot going on. Let Ollie help manage the mental load with new cognitive help supplements for everyone 4 and up, like delicious Lolly Focus Pops or Lolly Mellow Pops for kids. And for parents, try 3 new Brainy Chews to help you focus, chill out, or get energized. Find these cognitive health buddies for the whole fam at olly.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Welcome back to Dear Prudence. I'm here with my guest Heaven to answer your letters. And the next one is titled, I'm Not Mad, I'm Disappointed.
My younger brother recently outed himself as a budding Alex Jones. Think, January 6th wasn't bloody enough to bring about real change, on a public social media post for all to see, along with some other hateful garbage. And though I suspected he truly believed in some wild conspiracy theories and held alt-right views before, it's now been shoved directly into my face and into the faces of our entire extended family and social network. I am ashamed of him. My friends think he's deranged, and some of my family members are rightfully livid. I used to convince myself he was a good person who lost his way, but I can no longer lie to myself. He actually just sucks. Our parents are dead, he's my only sibling, and despite the fact I find his beliefs abhorrent, I don't want to kick him out of my life entirely. How the hell do I move forward here?
Kind of feel like I'm the wrong person for this because it's just not my ministry to keep terrible people in my life. It's not a choice that I've made. But the letter writer is not me. I understand the reasons for wanting a relationship with your one sibling when your parents have passed away. I know that really intensifies it. I would love to ask the letter writer what the relationship was like previously, before these Alex Jones views started popping up. Were you two really close? Did you ever spend a ton of time together? Was he really kind? And I ask that because I feel like it's rare to be a delightful, compassionate, thoughtful human who just happens to be drawn to outrageous and hateful beliefs. I think there are always signs and there are almost always symptoms of this mindset. So just something to think about. Was there ever anything there? Were you two ever really close?
Do you have anyone in your life who's changed in that way?
So I do have a half brother who I'm estranged from, who has always had really hateful views about almost everyone. And obviously, like, Trump and MAGA ended up being a great place for those views to land.
Yeah.
But that didn't come out of nowhere. The hatefulness and intolerance kind of reflected the kinds of ideas that appealed to him his whole life. So I wouldn't say that he really, really changed. And that's why it was not difficult for me to be estranged from him, because I'd never liked the kind of person he was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you have anyone?
I do have someone in my life who's become like a Trumper, a Black person, mind you. And I really didn't see it coming. And I kind of had to have a conversation with her where I'm like, I don't know what happened, but all you talk about lately is like really like conservative views that I've never heard you talk about before. She's gone like the extreme conservative Christian route, and not like the Christians who like fought for civil rights and care about all humans, the hateful Christians. So it's been really, really hard because she's not just like some person I barely see.
I think it's really tough because I didn't have an example in my life of how to maintain a relationship with someone like this. I asked on social media, does anyone have a friend or relative with views that you find, pretty awful or distasteful? And are you still close to them? Everyone who said yes, I followed up and asked, how often do you see each other? How often do you talk? And the relationships were always long distance and rare in-person hangouts. Many of them had announced that they would end the conversation or hang up the phone if certain things were brought up. And they kept it a lot to texting and quick phone calls. So I couldn't find an example of someone who said, we have these really different views and we're together twice a week. We hang out all the time. But letter writer, I think you might want to lower your expectations slightly for what the relationship could look like. You do say you don't want to cut him off completely, and I think that's possible.
Yeah.
So I think the question you might ask yourself is, how much contact would you need to have with him to feel a sense of peace, given that he's your only sibling, you lost your parents, and I get that. Could you talk once a month? Could you text twice a week? Could you just be in the same place for holidays and wish each other the best the rest of the year? Figure out the minimum that would feel good to you. And then also ask, can he uphold his end of the relationship? Because relationships go two ways. And if he doesn't value closeness as much as you do, then there's only so much you can do to carve out a way of having a relationship that works for both of you.
Yeah. I do think depending on what they were like before they got full alt-right, that there's still like, I don't know, small hope for like a meaningful intervention in this like change in their life. Like people join cults who are like nice, real human people, like regular.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing a few essays online about my son is being radicalized by YouTube and like he was a nice, sweet boy. There is some literature on like deprogramming from like cults, but also like more about like online radicalizing right now. Read up on what have been meaningful interventions in other people's lives. If your other family members are also like appalled by this, like check in with them, be like, who's the closest person to him? Like, can anyone have a meaningful conversation with him?
And is there some unmet need that's being met by feeling a sense of purpose and a sense of community around these conspiracy theories? I mean, you did say you lost your parents, and it sounds like it happened on the earlier side.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's one thing that could have been really painful.
Yeah.
It's worth a try. I think it's worth a try to have a talk with him and also to be prepared for him to just double down. This is Dear Prudence. We need to take a break, but when we come back, more letters from you and advice from us. Stay tuned.
Pulling up to Mickey D's just for drinks? Oh yeah, that's me. Nothing extra, just perfection and a straw. Coming in hot for the coldest cups on the block. Because there are drinks. Then there are drinks from McDonald's.
Ever combine an ice-cold frozen Coke with piping hot fries? Try frozen drinks any size for $1.49. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I'm Jenée, and you're listening to Dear Prudence. Heaven and I are about to tackle our last question for the day. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, it's titled Let Down Friend.
I moved to a new city right before the pandemic and pretty quickly joined a great group of friends. They're all kind, fun, and supportive. Even though I was new to the group, they were extremely supportive even during the pandemic. I've truly never had a group of friends filled with such wonderful human beings. Enter Se'era. Se'era and I hit it off pretty quickly. She had moved to the same city about a year before me, so we bonded a lot over that. We also work in a related field that we were very passionate about. Most of the people I know who work in similar fields are overworked and burned out, so they just don't have the time to talk about the stuff they used to love. When we finally started spending more time in person, I realized she was a bit goofier than I had thought, which was a nice surprise, as I'm pretty goofy too. Se'era and I got really close. I did start noticing, though, that Se'era seemed to get pretty drunk when we would go out. A couple weekends ago, we went to a party at a friend's house. Someone brought weed edibles. Se'era, who was already several drinks deep, mentioned never having tried one. Before I had time to warn her about not trying it for the first time while drunk, she had popped it in her mouth. She got really high. I ended up being the one to take care of her. When I got her into the spare bedroom, she brought up something that I had mentioned in confidence. I had talked to her about something very difficult that I had gone through with my mother. We have a strained relationship. And Se'era started giving me advice that she was afraid to give me before. She didn't say anything terrible, but I kept telling her this was something that was difficult and I didn't want to talk about it. She kept talking. I would have gone and get someone else, but I didn't want Se'era telling anybody else about what had happened, so I ended up yelling at her to stop. Her demeanor instantly changed. She started calling me terrible names and basically acting like a horrible, moody teenager. She was incredibly dismissive and started mocking what I went through. I could not believe I was witnessing this behavior from a well-functioning, full-grown adult. I told her I was leaving, to which she responded with, "Fuck you, bitch. I'm done with you." The next day, I got a text from her that she heard I took care of her the night before and that she didn't remember, but was very grateful. It's been a couple weeks and she clearly remembers nothing. I just cannot get over what she said. She's been texting me about stuff we normally text about, and I've been ignoring most of it, which isn't abnormal for a week or two, but this is gonna become an issue soon. I don't know what to do with the fact that she doesn't remember being terrible. It's not like she can defend herself, but even if she could, I just feel like all trust is gone. I feel like I'm grieving the loss of a great friend, but at the same time, a part of me thinks I don't have to. She doesn't remember, is normally incredibly supportive, and this could have just been a huge mistake. On the other hand, I feel like I'm just waiting for her true colors to show again. Do you think I should give her another chance? Should I even mention anything to her about this? I know I will miss her deeply if our friendship ends, but I just don't know if I can move past this.
So if this is not part of a pattern of behavior, I don't think it should lead to the end of the friendship automatically. But I do have some questions and concerns. My first thought reading this was, friends get drunk together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, friends get drunk and have edibles all the time. And nights out really rarely end with friends saying, "Fuck you, bitch, I'm done with you," to each other. It just doesn't really happen, right? So I don't know how much I believe the claims about the substances being the cause of this, or that she completely doesn't remember at all.
Honestly, my first thought was, how old are these people? It felt very young. Fuck you, bitch, I'm done. Like, it felt very, like, juvenile.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely think she has to talk to her. You can't go on.
No, you can't go on because you're so upset about it. It has to be addressed. And if it really was a random alcohol and gummy fueled, totally uncharacteristic, unfortunate event, then I think you can put it behind you. But at this point, your friend's feelings are out there. And those feelings she expressed about whatever she thinks you're doing wrong around your relationship with your mother are real, even if she didn't mean to express them. So now that they've been put on the table, you two have to talk about them. So I think, letter writer, you should mention it. You should tell her what happened. And you should see how she reacts. And I think her response will tell you a lot.
Absolutely.
If she goes, "Oh my God, I'm mortified. I do admit I had my own opinions about the situation with your mom, but I never would have shared my unhelpful thoughts if I'd been in my right mind. I don't know what happened. Maybe something about drinking less and how drinking is becoming a little bit of a problem and she's going to fix it." Versus saying, "Well, what I said was true."
Right.
Or, "Sorry if you were offended, but I don't remember." I just think the response will really show her character and whether she's being honest about this and whether she cares that she hurt you.
I do think when you get blackout drunk, there's a point where you are not actually in control of yourself. Your body is doing something. Like, people are always saying, like, you know, when you drink, it lowers your inhibitions. You are a little looser, which makes sense. But when you get blackout, I think that it's a little different. And I could absolutely see where she doesn't remember a single part of it. Not to out myself, but I have been in that situation. People have told me I've had, like, full conversations with them that I seemed reasonable in my right mind. They couldn't tell.
Really?
Certainly not "fuck you, bitch."
Right.
Absolutely not. But I think that could be a very primal, like, someone's yelling at me, so I'm instantly going to retaliate kind of reaction. And in the way that when you're blackout drunk, that could happen. I really feel like that's part of what happened here.
Okay. You're convincing me that maybe the story is really true. But again, I'm going to go back to when the friend hears the story of her behavior, she needs to be mortified.
Oh, absolutely. And she will be. I think she will be.
And 100% apologetic. Yeah. Not defensive. And her response should not at all resemble the response that she gave when she was blackout drunk.
Absolutely.
Okay, those are all the questions we have for this week. It's been fun and hopefully helpful. Thank you, Heaven.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been delightful. I love just getting in people's business.
Follow Heaven on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok at Heaven Nagatu. That's HEBENNIGATU. Do you need help getting along with partners, relatives, coworkers, and people in general? Write to me. Go to slate.com/Prudie. That's slate.com/PRUDIE. The Dear Prudence column publishes every Thursday.
If you'd like to hear your questions answered on the podcast, we are looking for letter writers who would be comfortable recording their questions on the show. You can stay anonymous.
Dear Prudence is produced by Se'era Spragley Ricks and me, Jenée Desmond-Harris, with a special thanks to Maura Currie. Editorial help from Paula De Verona. Daisy Rosario is Senior Supervising Producer, and Alicia Montgomery is Slate's VP of Audio. I'm your Dear Prudence, Jenée Desmond-Harris. Until next time.
Hi, this is Dahlia Lithwick, host of Slate's legal podcast, Amicus. If you're listening to this show, you might be interested in Amicus's live show that we're hosting in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, May the 14th. My colleague, Mark Joseph Stern, and I will be talking to some amazing guests, including Sherilyn Ifill and a sitting state Supreme Court justice, all about how originalism, a relatively recently invented way of interpreting the Constitution, has taken over the Supreme Court and radically reshaped the law. It's been doctrinal rocket fuel for the conservative legal movement and facilitated the rolling back of abortion rights, the expansion of gun rights, and the obliteration of the separation of church and state. And as another wildly consequential Supreme Court term careers to its end, the court's originalists are on a tear. But there's something you can do about it, and we hope you'll join us in D.C. on May 14th to explore the possible pathways out of the current situation. Go to slate.com/amicuslive for tickets.